The history of flight for mankind extends back even before the era of Jesus Christ, where Chinese generals would fly over enemy territory strapped to kites to scope out military positions. Those generals were pioneers. Many would follow in their footsteps nearly 2,000 years later. The lives of many commoners, scientists, soldiers, adventurers, and entrepreneurs would be consumed in attempts to break the very laws of physics. Sir Isaac Newton's third law of motion states, "For every action there is an equal and opposite reaction." Birds have been utilizing this law since before the reign of humans. Their wings push air down, so the air must push the birds up. This basic principle would develop into the field known as aviation. The term aviation comes from the Latin word avis, meaning bird. Since the bird seemed to have this skill mastered, man imitated the bird, first by strapping wings onto their arms. Then they devised machines called ornithopters. Ornithopters are machines designed to achieve flight by means of flapping wings. Original machines were made out of everyday materials such as stick, cloth, and wire. Leonardo Da Vinci is given credit for the first ornithopter, though he never built it himself. After 20 years of research, he drafted the blueprints of his machine in 1505. However good the concept seemed, though, all of these machines were too heavy and did not have enough power to rise into the air. Mankind had yet to understand their physiological restraints. The human heart would have to beat 800 times per minute in order to fly simply by flapping wings. Early aeronauts next turned to balloons in an attempt to fly. Balloons were filled with gases lighter than air, such as water vapor, helium, and hydrogen. In 1783, the Montgolfier brothers made a public demonstration of their hot air balloon. Their balloon was made of sackcloth and paper and had a diameter of 100 feet. They managed to ascend 6,000 feet in the air that day. Balloons such as these were impractical, though, and they could not be steered. In 1799, the English baronet Sir George Cayley improved the kite to make a machine with fixed wings, a propulsion system, and movable and controllable surfaces. This design was crude and could not be manned, but contained the fundamental concepts needed to develop the airplane. A glider is a light aircraft made to fly for long periods of time without using an engine. In 1849, George Cayley supervised the first successful manned flight using this design. He had a small boy pilot the glider for him and was able to land it successfully. Pilots of gliders had the first steering system. They would shift their weight to manipulate the aircraft. A biplane is an aircraft with two pairs of wings, one on top of each other. In the late 19th century, many improvements and tests were made on aircrafts. In 1874, Felix du Temple made the first attempt at powered flight. He hopped off the end of a ramp in a steam-powered monoplane. In 1894, Sir Hiram Maxey made a successful takeoff in his aircraft, but his flight was uncontrollable and crashed. Otto Lilienthal experimented with more complex gliders from 1864 to 1896, using George Cayley's designs as original inspiration for his gliders. He died by fracturing his neck, however, from a fall of 50 feet in a failed glider flight. His designs would inspire the Wright brothers to experiment with aerodynamic surfaces to control an airplane. This date marks the first successful experiment in which a machine carrying a man rose by its own power, flew naturally and at even speed, and descended without damage. Wilbur and Orville Wright had first experimented with gliders like Otto Lilienthal's. They blamed the failure of their flights, though, on false data provided by Lilienthal. They decided to gather their own wing data from systematic experiments they conducted. Their calculations produced an aircraft that could go up or down, left or right, and also roll on its longitudinal axis. They had performed over 800 flights at this time. However, they were unsatisfied with their invention, so they turned their attention next to power. They wanted an 8-horsepower engine weighing less than 100 pounds, but no engine manufacturer they contacted had the ability to produce one. Then, with the help of their bicycle mechanic, they designed and produced their own engine, having 12 horsepower. They named their plane the Kitty Hawk Flyer and successfully flew at 12 miles per hour in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, December 19, 1903. The Wright brothers were the start of an era. Man had finally become like the bird and defied gravity. Other aircrafts would eventually be developed: float planes, flying boats, passenger aircrafts, observation platforms with telegraphs, fighter planes, bomber planes, commercial airplanes, jet-powered airplanes. The inventions would lead to space travel in 1961. Mankind went from falling in style to walking on the moon in just 120 years. Who knows what the next 120 years may bring?